Hey everybody, this is Chiquito Crasto. Assuming that you presumably all know me. Um, anyway, thank you very much for helping, and I've sent each of you a list of 50 compounds. We're short about even after sending those, I still have about 400 left to go. So if you have, if you finish with these, uh, don't hesitate to let me know, and I'll send you some more compounds, and I'll continue working with it. So a lot of you have already done research with me. Some of you already know exactly what to do because it's in the nature of this project. So just a quick overview. What we are trying to do is identifying this new methodology that we have come up with, and we have a conference paper. We have about uh, two publications. One is in press right now. All of these are designed to uh, identify these molecular fingerprints, these electronic structural features in molecules, that it's a completely novel way. When I looked at plants, these are plants from South America, and they have some medicinal properties. So the idea is to be able to identify exactly what in the molecule. And so this methodology goes beyond the superficial. We're not just saying, oh, here's a ring or here's a big long chain, but we actually go from atom to atom and identify these single and two-dimensional uh, uh, signatures which are likely going to contribute, again it's all probabilistic, towards this particular a particular medicinal property, for example. Okay, all right, so let's assume that I have and this is just to take you to the process. So let's assume that I have a compound and I just made this compound up. And so if I go here, it is called resorcinol, or 1,3-dihydroxybenzene. So what do you need to do? So let's say this is my compound 1,3-dihydroxybenzene, and the first thing I want to do is I want to go to PubChem. Okay, so PubChem, and I'll along with, when I send you the link to the video, I'll also send you the actual links for all of these. So I'm going to PubChem. Again, it's very repeated work. Nothing, so you just have to kind of churn through it. And again, if there's any issues with any of the molecules, email me and I'll deal with it myself, and then we won't have to worry about it. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put here 1,3-dihydroxybenzene, and you can see that it's already there, right? So, and if it's not there, then don't worry about it. Just let me know the name of the compound that you can't find, and I'll deal with it. So once again, so you see 1,3-dihydroxybenzene, and it's actually giving. So this is a well-known compound. Just verify that yes, that is exactly the compound, and just click on this link. Click on this link, and then you will see here that they have a 2D structure, a 3D structure, and then you have something called as the crystal structure. This is how these molecules kind of aggregate in a crystal structure in a unit cell. But this is stuff that I taught when I taught some of you structure in our bioinformatics class, which no doubt most of you have forgotten. Anyway, so when you look at this 3D structure, click on the 3D structure, and it's going to take you to that same page. And so here's the 3D structure, and it's not really 3D, so you can see it's two-dimensional, but that's okay because this is a benzene ring, so maybe it is indeed two-dimensional. So then what you do is you go to this download and display. Okay, so download, display, SDF. Download, display, SDF. Okay, so you click on display, and it's going to show you this structure. Okay, let me move this a little bit, and that's the structure. So what I want to do is I'm going to cut the entire molecule, all of this, and I'm going to paste it in a new resource called OpenBabel. Now OpenBabel is something, but it's actually, and I'll include this link, so it's cheminfo.org. So this is a really useful resource where you can convert from one format to the other, just a text format, XYZ, all the different formats. So you can go here. So this is a very useful link to have even beyond this work. Okay. So now here I am going to Control A just so I can replace it, and I'm going to replace it with that SDF file. Now here I have these, you can convert from any file to any file. So I'm going to go down the link here, but again remember, you can see that you can't see the drop down box in this video, but I can see it. So all you have to do is go straight down to and click on SDF. Okay, because it's in the SDF file format. Remember this was SDF. We clicked on the display at SDF. So this is the SDF file format, and then I hit convert. And here there is something, some generic thing, but you hit convert, and here you can convert. It converts to the mol file, and this is very important because the next step of the process only takes compound in the mol file. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video while I get something else ready here. Okay. Okay, so now what I did was I have this compound which I have converted into the mol file, and I will cut and paste this, so Control A into that file and go, oops, so this is where I'm hitting Control A, and then I want to go into my text file. Now text file, I've instructed most of you to download Notepad++, which is really useful. If you're using a Mac, then this is what's called text. You can use the text edit, or your regular Notepad file is just good enough. So I cut and paste that into the format. Now this is being saved as a text file, so resourceandall.txt. So but what you want to do is you want to save it as wherever you want to save it as what is called a mol file. Okay, so a mol file, and so it's saved as a mol file, so you can see it's saved as a mol file. Okay, now that's one step. Now if for the next step, what we are doing is we are running through it to what is called a geometry optimization. Okay, we want to basically take that molecule, so you can see the structure, you can see these are the atom names, the atom names, the atom names. We are only interested in oxygens and carbons right now, and then you can see that though it is supposed to be a three-dimensional file, it's only writing it in 2 dimensions. So you can see the third dimension is 0, but it's a planar molecule, so let's not make a big deal out of it right now. Okay, so then the next step is what I'm doing is I'm using a file called Argus Lab. Okay, Argus Lab is something you can download. On the other hand, if you do not want to download it, take all your 50 molecules, create these mol files as text files saved as mol files, zip the files, all the mol files into the thing, into a folder, zip it, email it back to me, and I'll do the optimized geometry and send you the mol files for the next step. Okay, so right now we have something called Argus Lab. On the other hand, people who are using Macs, you're going to have kind of a hard time with Argus Lab, so don't worry about it. If on the other hand you want to use Argus Lab, you can actually use it, because if you have Windows, it's a very quick install, double click install, just like a typical Windows. You can build all the molecules you want, you can do any kind of thing, but for this purpose we'll just use the optimize geometry. So I'm going to open this file, so I click on this open, so this button here, so you can see I'm going to click on open here, and it's going to open a file, and I'm going to just basically wherever that file is stored, I'm going to double click it. So once I double click it, you see it's actually giving me my resource and all. It's a simple file, and if I rotate it, you see it's flat, just in the case of. So then what I do is I want to optimize the geometry. So you see this button here. It looks like something you might use to like a pincer or something. You just have to double click on it. Okay, so as you double click on it, you will find that, now let me make this a little smaller so you can see the whole window. As you double click on it, you'll see in this particular part, you'll see the geometry optimized, and you have to keep clicking until it says optimize geometry. Now if you, in your compounds, if you have something a little more complicated, then it might take several times to go, just and you just keep clicking it. So you see, I'm just going to go back here, I'm going to click on that button, and I will show you here. So it's running, and now it said geometry optimization converged. This is a simple molecule, so it's not a big deal. So I'll just, for good measure, I'll try it one more time. And then what I'm going to do is, because again it's a planar molecule, so it's not, nothing weird is going to happen with it. If it were a little more complicated molecule, let me open just one for fun, something else that I have. And so let's say we have this compound called as truffle sulfide. Now you can see truffle sulfide is a molecule that's three-dimensional, right? And I can, again, I'm going to click the same thing to optimize geometry. This has already been pre-optimized, so I'm not going to worry about it. So it's just saying converged, right? Uh, and so in this case, it's pretty straightforward. Now again, as I said, just repeating, if you do not have Argus Lab, then if you do not have Argus Lab, just do not hesitate to just take all the mol files, send them back, and I'll send you the mol files back again. So at the end of it, what you're going to have is a mol file which has been saved. So let me go back here, and I think I saved it. So let's go back here. You see that I optimize the geometry and I save it. So to save it, I'm just going to click this button, that button, which means it's saved. And so now I'm going to save my file, and you can just send it back to me and I'll deal with it. Okay. Now we have the mol file, right? And you can see from the text file that this is the mol file. Okay. And then what you do is, now we have that mol file saved. Now I'm going to go to another resource, and once again my email will include that the link to the other resource, and that is called NMRDB. So NMRDB, but I want the carbon 13 NMRDB. Okay. Oops, let me see here. So this is called NMRDB, but I'm only looking for carbon 13 NMR. Okay, carbon 13 NMRs. So you will see that this is where I am. So the reason why I wanted the mol file was that you drag and drop the mol file into this little button. This is some previous thing that I've been working on, so don't worry about these things. But right now you have to have a mol file. So let me drag and drop the mol file that I have. So just you can go to your window, and you can watch it. I'm going to drag and drop in here. Okay. Let me see if I'm not doing it correctly. So you can see I dragged and dropped it into this little window, and now we know what the resorcinol looks like, or the 1,3-dihydroxybenzene, hydroxyl benzene looks like. So here, now this is something that's we don't need, and then what you can do is you can say predict spectrum. Now remember, I'm going to carbon 13. Okay, so when I click on predict spectrum, it's actually going to give me a spectrum. Now I'm really glad I have these numbers twos, these number twos. Okay, and it's very important. So what I do is, you can go to this little button and right click on it. Okay, you can see this button here, right? So these are my NMR, what I call chemical shifts, and you can look at it right now again from kind of what is required from you right now. Just just as a mechanical way, just do it. Those of you who want another explanation of chemical shift, it's basically an environment. So typically a carbon atom, depending upon the nature of the carbon atom, whether it's an acid carbon atom or a carbon atom related to an alcohol, it's going to have a different position in the peak. So you can see here, each of these has a different position. But what happens is, depending upon the environment around which each of these carbon atoms find themselves, like this is a typical benzene ring, right? This is a benzene ring, and all the carbon atoms are going to be the same. But what's going to happen is, because of the presence of these oxygens, these carbon atoms are going to be shifted slightly differently, and it's that shift which is responsible for the chemical environment, and that is what we are targeting, that is what we are interested in. But I'm glad that these showed up as two. So now what happens is, let's go back to the creation of an Excel file from our optimized geometry. Okay. So let me go to the Excel file. Okay, and I want you guys to send me the information in the Excel file. So here I'm going to put, for example, compound, atom, name, and remember, we're looking for what is called a fingerprint depends upon the chemical shift and the electronic structural position, right? So X position, Y position, Z position. Let me make this a little smaller. And then I have the chemical shift. I'm just going to call it shift. Okay, so this is the format I want your Excel spreadsheets, and then I'll incorporate it into the rest of the spreadsheet. So my compound name is resorcinol. Then in my text file, now with this Notepad++, life becomes a lot easier for you. Okay, so in Notepad++, you can actually use text edit, and you can, for example, I'll show you what you can do. You can take these three compounds. You can take these. So first of all, in Notepad++, if you press the Alt button, if you press, and again, this is free for you. If you press the Alt button, you can drag your mouse literally and make along a column. You can actually identify a column. So that's what I did. You can do it whatever way you want. Now let's go back to the Excel spreadsheet. And here, I'm going to put atom names, and I've got all my column, right? So now once again, if I put number here, 1, and again, I'm going to now the numbering, if you look at if you go back to our Argus lab, again, that's something that you can do. If you go back to the Argus lab, and if I click on label, you can't see it here, but if I click on label, it'll label all the atoms. And you'll see the labeling is not O1, O2, C1, C2, C3, etc. It's O1, O2, and it goes to C3. Okay, so just to keep consistent with that labeling, let's go back to the Excel spreadsheet. And I will say O1, O2, then C3, oops, C3. And remember, you can drag the little mouse here, you can go, and then it numbers. So now I have everything numbered, right? Now, because I've already developed some additional software which will process this information to identify these so-called molecular fingerprints, the way it is formatted is every atom, this name should be represented again. So I'm dragging and dropping, okay? Then, once again, you can do this in any way you want. So I can go to this file, and I can, so what I normally do is, in this text file, is I press the Alt button. Again, this is something you guys can use. And so I can just get the carbon. I'm not interested in the hydrogens. I can take the carbon atoms, that's the X position, and I click in like this. Okay, and then similarly, I'm going to go to the Y. Make sure the negative signs are also included. Paste, and then I'm going to go to the Z, and this is zeros anyway, so I can just, doesn't matter. So I again press the Alt button, and you can get this. Now I don't know how you would be able to do this in text edit, but one thing you can do is you can go and I'll show you what else you can do, which might be easier. And now I'm going back into my Excel spreadsheet, and I'll type in that, and so that's 0. Now for the chemical shifts, we go back to our predict, right? And again, you can left click on this, and it shows export. And once you show export, you see what it shows. It shows this. So I'm just going to cut, and I am going to just that, and I'm going to go to my Excel spreadsheet and paste. Now, these are all, this is a mistake, these are all carbons. Okay, this is the carbon, 13 NMR. So go to the carbon line here. So you can see that, start from here and down. Now you will see that some of these are 2, which means there are 2 atoms that have exactly identical chemical shifts, right? So one thing I can do is I can move the chemical. So wherever I see a 2, so 157.9, and then because there's 2 below it, I'm going to put another 157.9. Then the next one is 103.8. Then you see 108.7. Right below it, there's 2 of that. So I put 2 in here. And then the last one is 131.8. So you see, if you find a 2, then add it twice, because it's 2 carbon atoms related to it. And the way it is, the way it the way the NMRs, the theoretical NMRs are calculated, it's correct. Okay, then you delete it, and then for this shift, oxygens have no shift. Even if you encounter a nitrogen, nitrogen 15 actually has a chemical shift, but there's no way like to calculate it in the way that we have it set up. So we're not going to worry about it. Just for anything other than carbons, just call it 0. And that 0 is important because we need to do some processing, okay? And this is it. So when you have your next compound, you can basically write it right there, carbon atom like this. Now, one way to go back to the text file and say, it's kind of a pain if you just have a text file. So one thing you can do is I can just cut and paste like all the carbons here and open a new file. I can open a new and I just copy this, and now what I can do is I can first of all take away all these, take away this position. Again, it takes a little bit of pain, but it's not, once you kind of know what to do, it's just repeated. It's not a lot of, and then what I can do is I can take this space and I can take away the space, but I can put a tab. Okay, and this is important. I can put a tab, and this is just to make life, I delete that space and I put a tab. And because the reason why the tabs are important, so again I take this space and replace it with a tab, because when something is tabbed, when something is tabbed, you can cut and paste it directly into an Excel spreadsheet and it'll fall nicely into cells. So again, you can do which in any way you want. Obviously, the Notepad++ allows you a lot of flexibility, but even if you had regular Notepad, you can do it. So I can just, now I'll just cut and paste it, and I'll just show you how this works in the Excel. So I can now, because I know my X, Y, and Z positions are such, and I can delete all this other stuff because I don't need it. And I forgot to put an so this, let's go back to the text. I made one mistake, and that is I should have put a tab here too. So I just tab here, tab. And then if you want, you can even put a tab after the oxygen carbon atoms. So I'm just replacing this space with a tab, and you'll see what I mean. So now I've cut and paste the whole thing, and let me go to my Excel spreadsheet, and let me delete this so I can show you how it's done correctly. And I put it in here, and I have now everything shifted. Right now, again, I made another mistake here, but again, so now you can see that you can take this entire column without the things and cut and paste it here. So now you have positions, and I ignore the thing I've done here, and so you can write it that way. And I may have missed something here, but again, so now you'll see it all come into tabs. Again, whichever way you want is perfectly okay. And then send me the Excel spreadsheet, because I've already have mine formatted in the way I wanted. And so that's pretty much it. Once again, if you do not have Argus Lab, if you're using a Mac and cannot access it, everything else is web-based. So again, if you have any other questions, let me know. I'll just save this video, and I will put it in kind of on YouTube and add a link to the video. And thank you so much for helping out. Again, I'll find a way to make sure you get co-authorship, so credited for your own resumes and things like that. Some of you, Caleb, Sahiti, Shraddha, you've actually done this work, so you kind of know what to do. Gayatri has already also done this work. And thank you so much again. And if you finish this quickly, if you want some more compounds, because I realize that I sent an email to 16 of you because you're busy, and no issues if you can't do it, but the 8 of you responded. I'm very grateful. and again, most of you are involved in other projects with me where there's one, two, potentially three papers going to happen. If the papers are not kind of coming out really as quickly as you might imagine, I apologize. It is I'm currently working on 17 different projects, and this is not even our primary responsibility at the center. So I appreciate it very much, and thank you. And again, do not hesitate to ask me if you have any questions, and I will be happy to respond as quickly as possible. Okay, thank you.